Hello, I want to do a video about anti-gravity voice leading. I know this might sound a little heady, but there's really not that much to it. When we have a typical chord progression, like a 2, 5, 1, 6 in the key of D major, what we often find is that our voice leading and our voicings tend to go in a downward trajectory. So usually you might hear something like this. And that sounds fantastic. Really nice voice leading. There's a nice melody to it, but I'm going completely downwards. In another example, I'll just do some simple shell voicings where I have the root in the third and the seventh. So, the voice leading is all there. I got everything I need, but it's going down because that's typically where we're going to see those guide tones kind of going in this downward spiral. So there's nothing wrong with that inherently, but sometimes we want to have, an opposing force. So I often talk about my voicings, my comping, my chords as having a melody note. So if my melody note is the top note, what if I tried to harmonize this type of progression and I had a melody note that's ascending instead of descending? So I'll show you an example. I'll do a pretty simple one right now. I'm going to start with, let me just make sure you know what I'm talking about. So a 2, 5, 1, 6 in the key of D major is E minor 7, A7, D major 7, and I like to use like a 6 altered chord, so like B7, sharp 5, it could be B minor, whatever B chord, B7 or B minor, there's some variation there. But those are the chords I'm generally using right now. So we'll start off with a simple example. What I like to do is pick a whole note melody that's going to be ascending over these chords. And one of the challenges or limitations that I like to use a lot is only moving in half steps or whole steps. So here's a melody I might choose. I might do the root of E minor, then maybe the sharp 5 of A7, F, and then the third of D major 7, which is F sharp, and then the sharp 5 of B7, which is G. That's a completely chromatic ascending melody. So now I have 2, 5, 1, 6. Now I could figure out how to harmonize it. So I could do something like this. Check it out with the bass notes. Has a really super colorful sound, and now I have this melody that's going upwards, kind of opposing the direction of the harmony. So one of the questions you're of course going to have is, how do I figure out how to harmonize these notes? Well, one of the things you can do is set a limitation. So maybe you only use drop 2 voicings, and that's what I did in this case. So I had an E minor 7 third inversion, that's D, G, B, E, and now I have this nice A7 altered chord. So technically I'm thinking of this as a G half diminished chord. That's coming from my A altered scale, which is B flat melodic minor. So I've got this nice second inversion G minor 7 flat 5. I have the C sharp, the third, G, the 7, B flat, the flat 9, and F is my sharp 5. That's my melody that I'm harmonizing. So I've got 2, 5, and now I'm going to go up to 1. This is kind of our stock D major 7 drop 2 voicing with the third on top. Now check this out. I can actually use that same altered voicing for the B7 because it's a B7 sharp 5 and sharp 5 is my melody, so it's going to be the same exact voicing. It's parallel, so it just moves up. So I have, again, 2, 5, 1, 6. You'll often notice that you can use similar voicings even when you're moving in an upwards trajectory. So that's kind of a nice little tip or trick. So I'll do it with the bass notes. I forgot to mention over the B7, this is an A minor 7 flat 5. So if you think of a minor 7 flat 5 chord from the flat 7 of a dominant, that's going to get you this nice altered sound where you have the third, the seventh, the flat 9, and the sharp 5. Again, this comes from the altered scale. So this is kind of my process. I find little melodies, and I start to harmonize them. So let's choose another one. Let's just find another one. And one of the nice things about this is coming up with chord tones or non-chord tones that you maybe wouldn't typically harmonize on top. So I'm going to start with the 11 on E minor this time. So I'm going to do A. Okay, that's my 11. And then I'll go up a half step again. B flat over A7 is the flat 9. And then B over D is my 13 or the 6. And then C over B7 is the flat 9 again. So you'll see that we have, when you go up in this process, some of these chord tones are going to be the same ones. You have the flat 9 on the A7 and a flat 9 on the B7. So again, whatever voicing you use, you can just move it up parallel. So let's come up with something. I'll do this. And maybe I'll do, and then, so check it out, I've got this. So here's what I've got going on. We've got E minor 11. I've got this G, D, F sharp, A voicing. I like this one a lot. Get the 3, the 7, and the 9, 11. A lot of color. And then here's that same voicing I was talking about, but just a different inversion. I've got that G minor 7 flat 5 over A, which gets me that altered sound, but now with the flat 9 as the melody. Then I'm resolving to a simple D6 voicing. I like this one a lot. You notice that the 3 voices of this A7 altered chord move up a half step, so that's a really nice voice leading. And then I'm going to use that same concept for the B7. It turns into my A minor 7 flat 5 over B, which harmonizes the flat 9, gets me the 7, the 3rd, the sharp 5, and the flat 9. So here it is with the bass notes again. Get this wonderful voice leading. I'm not really moving a lot, but now there's a whole lot of color, and I have a different melody than what you might expect because it's moving upwards, and it's also going chromatically, which I think is just a really cool sound. It's an arranging technique that I use not only in my guitar playing, but when I'm writing for ensembles and different groups. So that's my process for anti-gravity voice leading, and I just wanted to show you an example, kind of not an maybe an extreme example, I guess, where I'm going up quite a long way. So let's do it. So I could do this forever. And you know, it's interesting, if you, whatever note you start on, you're going to get completely different chord tones or non-chord tones that you're going to have to end up harmonizing. So I started on the root in that case, but if I started on the 9, I'm going to have to harmonize completely different notes over different chords. So now it completely, you know, kind of forces my hand in coming up with new voicings or new ways to approach this stuff. Now, sometimes you're going to end up having to harmonize a note that you might not consider a chord tone. For instance, if I start on the 9 of the 2 chord, I can do 9 right here. This is technically a 1 chord, but I end up on the flat 7. So I might have to deal with that. I kind of just turn it into like a D sus sound. I'll play this in context. Right there, again, that was the 1 chord, but I have a flat 7 in the melody, so I can either adjust it and go up to the major 7, or I keep it and just figure out how to make it work. So in this case, I played A minor 7 over D, which gets me kind of a D sus sound, and you know, that's valid. You know, that it's not technically the 1 chord, but there's lots of leeway in this harmonic world of jazz. So I would consider that not a huge deal if it was going by quickly, or if I kind of, you know, was playing with players that, you know, can have open ears like that, or I know I'm just not going to get in the way. So to wrap up, I'm going to move to the key of C, and I'm going to play a couple different melodies, and I'm not going to be as strict about half steps or whole steps, but I'm going to make sure it goes up. So again, I'm going to write or figure out a melody beforehand. So maybe I'll do G, the 11 of D minor 7, then I'll do B flat, which is the sharp 9 of G7, and then maybe I'll resolve to a D over the 1 chord, and then maybe I'll do E flat, which is the flat 5 of my A7 chord. So it's going to sound like this with just the roots. All right, let's check it out. Maybe I resolve up to the 9 of the 2 chord again. So come up with these melodies that are ascending in any way. And again, it's nice to use a limitation where you're only going up in half steps because you're going to get some really interesting combinations. I really love this type of sound. I think of people like Ed Bickert. I think of Ed Bickert a lot when I think about voice leading, especially in really beautiful, interesting ways. Check him out, of course, Canadian Telecaster Jazz Master. Remember that there's lots of ways to voice any given chord or any given melody, as I like to think of it. You can use drop 2, you can use drop 3, you can use drop 2 and 3, you can use drop 2 and 4. Right, there's all these different drop combinations. You can use close position. There's all sorts of ways to harmonize one melody, but starting with drop 2 or drop 3 or drop 2 and 4, I like to do especially because those are just really nice sounds you can grab pretty easily on the guitar. So have some fun with anti-gravity voice leading. I hope this kind of clears some confusion up about this. I do it a lot. And if you have any other questions, please hit me up at Beyond the Frets on Instagram, or shoot me a message at zachjonesguitar@gmail.com. I'm always available for lessons. Yeah, enjoy.